Hey guys, it's Matt. Real quick regarding the TPS video note coming in, we'll leave it the way we've been doing it. If I don't say anything, you generally don't have to see what's coming in the video. If you have to see a certain part, I will let you know. I cater to truck drivers and forklift operators. So if I don't say anything, you don't really need to see much. It is important to see this picture only, and then that's it. I don't talk about the Mandela Effect much, as you know. There are many reasons for that. One reason is there are a lot of channels that do it. Two, there hasn't been a whole lot that's come regarding Mandela Effect Fast and Furious like it did hit us big time in 2016. And I realize that 20% here aren't thrilled with the topic, and about 5% are highly triggered. We've gotten rid of most of the triggered people. But I do love talking to the Mandela Effect naysayers while delivering a basic video about the Mandela Effect. And this will be even up. This will be 50-50. I don't understand how the naysayers and the triggered can ignore this sort of evidence. I have a new residual regarding the top of the Sistine Chapel, Adam almost touching God's hand. Because there's been so many memes, so many meme type cartoons related to this, the fact that a Mandela Effect exists, it's almost impossible to deny, even if you're not affected by it, even if it's always been this way. And you say, well, what did the artists do that made these hundreds and hundreds of memes with God above Adam? Why would they make it in that way hundreds and hundreds of times over if it never was like that? Some residuals are so strong that even if you don't see the Mandela Effect, the big thinker would say, well, these people have to be onto something because this just doesn't make any sense. As you know, this is the creation of Adam, the top of the Sistine Chapel. To me, to many of us that are Mandela affected, this is ridiculous. God depicted here not being higher, reaching down to Adam, literally looks ridiculous. As ridiculous as if you turned on Sesame Street and Kermit the Frog had a gigantic purple elephant's head? Yes. That ridiculous. Now, if you're driving or whatever, again, I'll describe what you need to see as we continue the conversation here, guys. Don't worry about it. But God's entire finger is lower than Adam's limped wrist. Look at that. What's that saying, that limp wrist? It's lower, and it only when you get up to God's bicep, almost to God, quote, God's shoulder, is it higher than Adam's wrist. It's very level going across. There are many people that believe that the Mandela Effect is making a statement in each one. And this certainly adds to the people's opinions that believe that. I don't at this time, but I'm open to that. Actually, the smaller picture, hard for many of you to see, but the smaller picture gives you a better perspective of how level it is across the arm. God's head is higher, but it's nowhere near what, quote, the Mandela affected people like us remember. And the memes show something completely different. But as usual, the residuals go away. The memes that show something different, far less today than when I looked, say, 3 or 4 or more years ago. The memes and the residuals that support what we remember, it just goes away. That's how the Mandela Effect works. It always just, the residuals fade away for whatever reason. For the 10,000 people or 100,000 people that have this one as a Mandela Effect anchor effect, where they just 100% sure this is what we remember, and the memes reflect this. You know, I got to show you I can't show you Adam because that's not what exists in reality. I got to show you a monkey reaching up and all the different memes. And there were way more memes that had God much higher when I looked at this years ago. But this is just a good example. And most of us believe from the Bart Simpson one, God was much, much higher. But this is generally Adam reaching up. I mean, this is an anchor effect 100% for many people. So for the naysayers, I love to talk to the Mandela Effect naysayers. You would think people that are here at this channel should be the biggest of thinkers. And they should say, well, Matt, I don't see it, but I've trusted your work for many, many years, and there's enough people talking about it. There must be something to it, but there's still like 5% that get triggered. Like, oh, you guys are falling for a psyop. I knew this channel would eventually fall for a psyop. Oh, yeah. See, if somebody came around the corner and said, Matt, I saw a ghost, we're big thinkers here. I would say, well, I don't see it, but tell me about it. Tell me about your experience. I'd be open to it. See how that works? So here's the residual. I'll describe it if you're driving. There was a chill hop, I guess it's called, that type of music channel I was subscribed to. And I guess this image, she would post different animations over different songs. It's probably been out for about 4 years, I think. But it clearly shows to the right that God's finger coming down, very far down, to Adam very far below. And somebody might say, I guess it's a little bit of a desperate argument, but it really should be turned on its side. Well, if you turn it on its side, which would be what? Portrait or landscape? I guess that would be landscape. If you turn it to landscape, then it shows Adam's hand way above God's, and that doesn't even reflect the current reality. And why would it need to be turned? She has the other photos on the wall, like the Venus de Milo is pictured correctly. Everything is as it should be on her wall, as you see part of her body there laying there reading. I just have zoomed in on a certain part, so it is the proper perspective. God's hand is very far above, and again, when you have hundreds and hundreds of memes, and you think, well, all these artists here we go again with the same argument. All these artists just got it wrong. Every artist that ever sketched a lion with a lamb or spent weeks putting a painting together with a lion and a lamb, they just got the animal wrong. I mean, it is frustrating to those who can see the Mandela effect when the naysayers come in that don't want to think big and say, well, I don't see it, but I see that there are hundreds and hundreds of these residuals that just don't make any sense. And unfortunately, it just doesn't happen very often for those that can't see the Mandela effect. It happens way more at this channel. People are willing to say, hey, Matt, I like your Mandela effect videos, even though I can't see it. But other channels, oh man, do people get triggered. The abuse that Moneybags has taken over there, the abuse, I thought I got trolled or whatever. I mean, if you're triggered, if you don't see the Mandela effect, it's probably like running a script, honestly. We're all not immune to it. We all, in some cases, take the download. In some cases, we all run the scripts of this reality. And I believe that's what it is regarding the Mandela effect naysayers. Let me insert this to correct something. If you don't see the Mandela effect, I'm not saying you're running a script or taking the download. Absolutely not. Most people shouldn't see it because it doesn't reflect the current reality. The current reality resets itself back through time as a retrocausality. Most people, we shouldn't see it. But what I'm saying, if you are really a triggered naysayer, like you really love to start screaming sigh, all you can do when Matt makes a Mandela effect video is just scream out in the air, say, Mom, he's running a psyop again. That sort of behavior, that's a script. Not somebody that just says, Matt, I don't see it. That's not a script. We shouldn't be able to see it. It doesn't exist in reality, and it never has existed in reality. Of course we're not supposed to see it. And one quick thing about the Mandela effect. People are not Mandela affected because of all these residuals. They clearly remember what it was. And you can't even say it like that because there is no date of change. And again, it ripples back through time. There never was a change. Reality has always reflected what currently exists. But of course, they have a personal recollection. It's not like they're convinced of it because of the residuals. The residuals, what the hell's the matter with me today? The residuals just confirm their original memory, put it that way. One quick thing before we scroll through more images on Google Images, just to see what sort of images exist regarding the memes that have God above. We'll take a look. Every time I look, the residuals get less and less. But if you really want a Pootie Tang award, and you're just dying for Matt to give you a Pootie Tang award as like a bright boy alert, then you want to comment that this is cut out of the brain. God is a cut out of the brain, an allusion to the pineal gland. If you really want that award, then talk about that. We know that. Pootie Tang award coming. What a ta, my tabby. Get my dillies on the runny kind. The purpose here is not an analysis, Matt breaking down the creation of Adam and what is represented through God in the cutout of the brain. This is a Mandela effect video. Most of the cartoon and painting memes that exist today for the creation of Adam, or its parody, are just like what exists in reality, of course. Beavis and Butthead here, arms very level, heads very level, God slightly above. This is what we would expect because all of reality's been the way it is. This might not be the best example, but God is clearly above. The entire arm goes up to God above the rat. Who decided to put Adam as a rat in this meme? I don't know why. Come to think of it, though, is Adam and Eve to a Christian? They're seen as villains, I guess, right? But if they didn't do what they did, then you wouldn't be in a body on earth, right? I mean, so are they villains or not? How does the typical Christian see Adam and Eve? Because there'd be like 7 people running around that garden, right, instead of billions here, and you wouldn't be in a body. I don't know. That's for another. Matt, talk about straying. I hear you. Let's keep going. I don't know who the gentle Euro-type man is in this meme, but God is still higher, not as high as I remember, but clearly from shoulder through the arms to the arms, it's upslope here, maybe 15 degrees. If you just pretend that Leo isn't there, this is exactly what I remember. Maybe more of a 25-degree angle. God clearly, maybe this isn't even high enough, clearly above, almost the entire arm above that limped wrist. And I guess this is from To Live and Die in Hollywood, that horrible, horrible Tarantino movie. It went nowhere. It made no sense. And I think they made it for themselves. I've talked about that movie before. I think they made it as an ode to what Hollywood used to be and what they want it to be, and all the vermin from their perspective have moved in, and people were convinced, like Hamilton, that it was a great movie, and it stunk. I'm thinking, per that last image, do I need to blur that because of what happened with Echo and Narcissus? Are you kidding me? Do I need to blur that little Pene? This is more, forget that. I assume Bot will be okay with this one, not block half the people. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. And other people have told me nobody else gets blocked in the same way that I get blocked. That Echo and the Bunnyman and Narcissus video would have been allowed by a lot of other channels. This is a different kind of meme, but the angle, much, much more what I remember, the position between God and Adam. To the naysayers, why did they do it like this? Whether it's I don't think it's just 2 guys in the shop. This looks staged. This looks like an art production. Why'd they do it like this if this isn't a representation of reality? All you need to do is pull up the images on Google Images, and why do you create the angle here? Okay, it's just the same old defense in the same old tired way. Never really works, does it? If you can't see it, you can't see it. Let's move through these a little bit more quickly. Jim Henson way higher. That is really the angle that I remember right there. This one should be blurred just in case anybody's eating. Tenacious D. Oh my, well, that's more the angle I remember. This is lower, but clearly it's going up. I'll show you what exists today one more time, how ridiculously level it is. I don't even know what they're depicting here. That's about a 25-degree angle up. And this is way higher, but God's got to be higher to pour the drink. One last time, this is what exists today, almost completely level. This just looks ridiculous. God's arm to the elbow is below the top of that limp San Francisco wrist. I mean, look, come on, man. This is a joke. Matt, does this look as ridiculous to you as Australia looks to Papua New Guinea? No, not at all. That's the most ridiculous one to me. Here's a crazy story for you related to this image. If you're driving, it's just the picture of the hands. It's just a focus on the hands. When I moved in here, when I came back from California, 2002, moved in here, hey, the walls were empty. Went out to Goodwill, bought a few things. I bought this painting from the Goodwill here down at the Marchwood Center, I don't know, say 2004, something like that. I had it on my wall for like 10 years, and I took it off right before the Mandela Effect hit. I took it down. I just gave it back to the Goodwill. It's like 2 hands. I'm tired of looking at 2 hands for 10 plus years. So I couldn't. Now, as the Mandela Effect works, Matt, you don't expect a residual. Almost all the time, I would go into my room if it was still there, and I would see the hands very, very level like this. And then I would question, wait, wasn't it higher? But the painting was gone. It wasn't here. Of course, if there is a date of change, there is no date of change. All of reality resets other than certain rare residuals or things that happened to Greg, where the Wizard of Oz literally changed scene by scene right in front of his eyes. But I still would have, when I saw this as a major Mandela Effect anchor for me, it's an anchor, but it's not my strongest anchors. I would have loved to go running into the room to see if the damn hands were still like I remember, but I had just gotten rid of the painting. I mean, what are the chances of that? Look at this on the right. Mandela Effect, Analysis of a Worldwide Phenomenon by T.S. Caledon. Oh no. It's split between the magenta and the emerald green. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. This world is a joke, guys. It's not real. It's just not. I mean, T.S. Caledon's in on it, and the Men in Black, no. He just, people are on it. There's no real world that can deliver a download to people where they just run scripts. And this guy, hey, I'll go find it on Amazon, make sure there's a real book or whatever. But nobody came in, no Men in Black came in. He just chose, in complete reflection of one another, the magenta on top and the emerald green on the bottom. Who are you, T.S. Caledon? Are you running scripts, sir? Are you an NPC, sir? Come on, sir. Here it is on Amazon, Mandela Effect, Analysis of a Worldwide Phenomenon, $14.95. Magenta on the top, white balls, emerald green paired with the emerald green black balls on the bottom. What's it? A new craze has caught fire online. Craze. Is that what it is when all of reality changes? It's just a craze. It's like bell bottoms in the 70s. A new craze has caught fire online, in YouTube, and on people's minds. That doesn't even make sense. And you're writing a book? A phenomenon that will surely hit mainstream. No, it doesn't. Have you heard of the, quote, Mandela Effect? You better hope so. Nobody will buy your damn book. And you wondered what it's all about. Is it merely mistaken memories or false beliefs? So it's one of the two, huh? Over here you have mistaken memories, and behind this door, false beliefs. See, this is a shill right from the start. I don't even have to open the book. Or is something far more mysterious happening in the world we remember so well? A, quote, mountain of evidence is presented here. This person can't even write because of the cover by itself. It's probably like a Fiona, I don't care to pronounce it right, Fiona Broom. What they want to do is get ahead of the Mandela Effect. They want to present it in the way they want it presented, so people like us don't use it to understand reality. Of course, the creeps are all over it in presenting it the way they want it presented through their shills like Fiona Broom. What do I think it is? I think we live in a fluid reality where these changes take place all the time. A big one every day, thousands every day, who knows? Just constant resetting. As reality resets, we are in frequency, in resonance with this reality. We reset to it as well. Therefore, 99% or whatever of these things that could be called a fluid reality change or a Mandela Effect, we don't notice. I've said this before, so I'll be brief. The sky is, it's blue today. It's always been blue. It may have been red yesterday or any other color. But there's a change, it ripples back through time, we reset with it, and to us, it appears as if the sky has always been blue. As usual, we can learn something about reality by examining the creeps and how they act. And people say, he who doth protest too much. I'm not sure, it's from Hamlet. The lady doth protest too much, whatever that means. The lady doth protest too much. Well, see, that's what the creeps did to us when this thing hit hard around 2016. You know what I'm going to say? CERN. All the radio shows blaming CERN. We've changed it to he who doth protest too much. If all these videos come out pointing at CERN, you know what? There's so much pointing at CERN that you would think that's what the creeps want us to believe. Right? It's just not natural how much CERN emphasis there was with the Mandela Effect rippling through the truth community. When that happens, it's not natural. We're told to think that. The word predictive programming, you think some truther just on their own came up with the word predictive programming and then it just ran? No, most of this stuff has been inserted into our community by creeps to get ahead of where we're going, to get ahead of where we're thinking. Because we were told so vehemently, if that's even a word, to blame CERN, then I back up and say, no, it's like, but Matt, maybe it's a double reverse psychology. They blame CERN ridiculously. Then you see that they're overly blaming CERN, so you don't think it's not CERN. Okay, then this go on forever. But I don't know. They didn't do this to account for me. It's so much blaming of CERN. It's not CERN. Okay, it's to me, it's part of reality. May have evolved this way because of potentially what creeps are doing or bites of the shit sandwich that creeps are taking. But it's part of the quote governing dynamics of the reality itself. It's not like point at one experiment, at CERN. I just they pushed it too much. This, I believe, was also linked to CERN. Do you remember? Well, you have to be in the truth community a pretty long time to remember this. Do you remember the spiral in the sky over Norway that was linked to CERN? But this was several years or many years before the Mandela Effect hit in 2016. But nevertheless, then the truth community started running with this one. And I finally, we took the bait, guys. Oh my gosh, we took the bait. Meaning, okay, like the creeps are just incapable of sending up maybe not a $25 firework, but something a little bit, maybe a $3,000 firework. They probably have the ability to make a spiral in the sky and for some reason turn it into a news story and then link it to CERN and implant that in the truth community. I believe people in Norway probably saw this spiral in the sky. Why would I say it's faked? They're not able to modify a firework that's shot up at the state fair to make something that's a real eerie spire. Of course, they probably could do this for 20 grand. And then the news gets a hold of it, and then the truth community gets a hold of it. Why didn't we? I don't like Occam's razor, that term. That term is a manipulation, so you think a certain way. I hate Occam's razor, but I'll employ it here. Occam's razor in this case is they sent up a $20 firework. Well, something more sophisticated. You would think they have the ability to make a spiral in the sky. Yeah, that's probably not too hard for these creeps. Maybe they sent up Jeff Bezos' water heater to spray stuff out the back and spin it around. Okay, there was a spiral in the sky. Our first reaction should have been, I'm not linking that to CERN or a portal in the sky or demons coming through. That's the shit they planted in the truth community. We should be like, okay, so they wanted us to think there's something going on really mystical here. It's probably a damn firework left over or modified from the New Jersey State Fair. I can't talk about the Mandela Effect without bringing forth my original theory that I tried to introduce to the Mandela Effect community when I was more involved in it in 2016, 2017, is inferior new result. Now, Curious George is not an anchor effect for me. I don't know whether the thing had a tail or not, but it's a good example. Today, what exists in this reality, it doesn't have a tail and it never had a tail. But almost everything that anyone calls a Mandela effect, it's an inferior new reality. Or what exists today is inferior to what people remember, almost 100%. Now, I've been screaming to the Mandela Effect community for years. If you want to try to figure out what's going on here, and again, it's not, I don't do more than 2 videos a year on the Mandela Effect, but there's channels that do every single video. You have to use inferior new, quote, new result as a way to understand. I mean, so who would start drawing Curious George without a tail? When monkeys have tails, I mean, they need them to swing. And I guess there's certain baboons, but they're not swinging around. They get those big asses. Monkeys have tails. They need them for balance and to swing. So, Matt, it cuts down on the ink. What? So you're going to draw this whole cartoon and you can't just do a little line on the back of tail. It doesn't make any sense. With almost every Mandela effect, there's an inferior new result. Or in some cases, you can't say it's inferior or superior. It's just the same. Like, okay, the monocle for the Monopoly man. Well, is that inferior, superior? But it's never better. The Mandela effect never seems to improve anything. Most of the time, it makes it worse. It's my favorite thing in the world to talk about regarding the Mandela effect. Jaws. You're going to, right after the shark comes up and their lives are at stake and they're in the foxhole together out in the middle on this boat, he runs in, you're going to need a bigger boat. This is one of the, I've said it, for those that have been here years, how many times I've talked about this one. It would never be in the script. Steven Spielberg, if it was in the script, would have caught it. And just, you don't think he has the ability to change it on the fly if it doesn't make any sense? Roy Schneider going to the old captain after he sees Jaws for the first time and their lives are in jeopardy. You're going to need a bigger boat. When the old ship captain doesn't give a shit about opening the beaches, he doesn't give a shit about killing Jaws. He just wants to get paid. He's not invested. He's just there to provide the ship and perhaps a way to help kill Jaws. No, he would say, we're going to need a bigger boat. Who really cares about opening the beaches? Roy Schneider, whatever that two-bit actor is from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We are in the foxhole. We're going to need a bigger boat if we want to do this. The script says you're going to need a bigger boat. That's always existed in reality. Steven Spielberg would have gone, what was that you just said? He might not be familiar with every line of the script. He would have simply said, stop, cut, say, do it again. It's one scene where he walks through a door. No, change it to we're gonna need a bigger boat. Steven Spielberg wouldn't have the ability to do that. It's almost always an inferior new result. I mean, I guess I'm just going to go on this inferior new result tangent. We'll look at some more because this is, I'll scream at the Mandela Effect community to have this more in the forefront when you talk about the Mandela Effect. Looking over some images, I wasn't even aware of this one. I can't say it's an anchor, but it's strange to me. Cocoa Puffs, the cereal, COCOA, it's always been Cocoa Puffs. Maybe that's how you spell cocoa. I don't even know, but it's just strange. This happens a lot with the spelling. For example, Fruit Loops, Fruit, Froot, fruit. There's always a bastardization or an adulterization of the spelling. It never goes from, regarding those that are affected with the Mandela Effect for certain cases, it never goes from a bastardized spelling or a bogus spelling to a real spelling. It never goes to Fruit. It's always a degradation. It goes Froot. See, you have to understand, folks, when these brands came out, all there was lists and yellow pages and books to find brands. There was no internet that's just going to pull it right up. So the spelling or the proper spelling of something was very important, or at least in the ways Cocoa Puffs, how you believe your audience or your buyers would spell it. If you want to find it on a list or you're looking for a coupon, you would never choose in a marketing roundtable, let's call this brand Froot. Somebody would raise their hand and say, well, wait a second. Somebody that wants to find our product is going to not find it because they need to know to misspell the name. They're going to want to probably type in or look in the book for FR. Again, these brands are 50, 60, 70 years old. They're going to look up Fruit. And when they can't find it, I don't want them to go to a competitor. You would never use a bastardized spelling unless you absolutely had to in your marketing campaign. Or you would spell it the way you would think most kids or moms would spell it. Look, I'm pretty well versed and pretty well read. I don't know what COCOA is. Is that cocoa? I don't know. I've read a few books. I graduated from college, so you would spell it. If I had to look up cocoa, I would start with COCO. Okay, call me ignorant if you want, because I don't know what's cocoa. But that you would spell it the way your customers would be inclined to spell it. It would be about the marketing. This always happens with the Mandela Effect, and it's another giveaway. It's always an inferior new result. Look at Tidy Bowl comes to mind. I don't know. It's so bizarre the way they spell it, Tide with a D. You would never do that if you want people to find your product. Looney Tunes is almost an anchor for me, but it's not. I mean, an anchor is when you know 100% this existed. 100% I know it was Interview with a Vampire. I know A and the is trivial. 100%. Just the same as saying, do you know your own mother's name? And if somebody said, no, her name's now Jane, and here's her birth certificate, and here's her driver's license, would it really matter if somebody showed you a bunch of paperwork and then your mother herself said, my name's always been Jane, Matt? Would it matter? Do you know your own mother's name right now? That's what an anchor effect is to the Mandela Effect. Meaning, I don't care if my mother were to say, my name's always been Jane. What's wrong with you, boy? You sniffing glue again, boy? It wouldn't matter. We clearly know what the mother's name was or what color your dog was. So Looney Tunes is not an anchor. I can't go that far. I reserve that for just a few things. Australia, where Australia is an anchor effect to me. And that is insane to anybody stumbling upon this video. But where it is ridiculous looking. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, so that I know that is so insane to anybody that's not open-minded about the Mandela effect that they'll write me off as a lunatic just from what I just said. Actually saying there's a change to the map. I mean, what could be more insane than that? Whatever. We're big thinkers here. I don't cater to the people stumbling upon this video. But Looney Tunes is just, this is a real, I have always really bothered by this. T-U-N, it's not about music. It's a damn cartoon. T-O-O-N. It's who would ever come up with the name? I mean, think about the group that sat around the room and said, we're going to base Warner Brothers, we're going to base a big part of our company at that time off these cartoons. It was a huge segment that grew the entire Warner Brothers company that led to The Matrix. So somebody sat around a table and got the idea. Someone said, well, why are you, let's just say there was no Mandela effect, and somebody put forth, we're going to call it Looney, T-U-N-E-S. Why are you calling it Tunes? Isn't it 99% about the cartoon? The character is Bugs Bunny. Well, we have music in it. Well, yeah. Well, so does Charlie Chaplin movies had music in it. I mean, well, they're silent. Well, no, the silent pictures had music. That was the whole point. No one's just going to go there to just listen to crickets chirp. There is music in a silent picture. Of course, there's classical music set to cartoons, but whoever was at Warner Brothers would said, this is not about tunes. Nobody cares about the music. It's 99% about the characters. We'll just change it to Looney, T-O-O-N. That's it's not even illusion. It's a direct relation to a cartoon. It would never happen. That's what's so frustrating about the Mandela effect and inferior new results. If you go back to the boardroom of who came up with the idea, it would never happen. My favorite example of all time of it would never happen is this one. Here it is, the Volvo penis. The Volvo Mars arrow. This is my favorite one of all time to talk about inferior new result, if this is an anchor effect for you. But it would never get out of the boardroom. Now, so Matt, don't you know the Volvo logo? Somebody that doesn't understand the Mandela effect. The Volvo logo's been around for 80, 90 years. They'll say we have to address the same old things. It's always been like this. I know it's always been like this. That's how the Mandela effect works. What appears to be a change ripples back through time. So it's always been like this. But it would never get out of the boardroom. What do you mean, Bat? Let's just role play it again. It's my favorite thing of all time to role play. I know I say everything's my favorite thing of all time. That's just a mantra of this channel. Okay. So, okay, Jack, do you have the sketch? This is like 1920 or whatever this damn company was created, 1925, 1930. Do you have the sketches of what logo we're going to put on millions and millions of cars and trucks over the next 100 years? Yeah, here it is. It's a circle with the... Doesn't the arrow have a relationship to Mars, the symbol for male, because of the penis? And yeah, put that on our logo. You put a dick... a symbol, the Mars symbol on our logo? Yeah, this is a subliminal dick I put on our, isn't it great? First thing that would happen, you're fired. It would have never got out of the boardroom. Is anybody trying to tell me right now that women didn't start buying cars? It was 99 whatever percent men until about 1965. Okay, well, if that's the case, they would have taken the dick off the logo in 1965. They would have called another board meeting. Let's just say this really did get onto Volvos in the 20s and 30s and 40s. There would have been another meeting in 1968 saying, sir, do you know, it looks like 30% of our buyers are women now. We might want to consider taking the dick off the logo. You know, that's not a factor. Women who have no idea what that arrow stands for, and even men. Why am I putting it just one way from a woman's perspective? As a man, if I buy a Volvo, I don't want a dick. I wouldn't want to drive a Volvo through Northern California and then eventually into certain parts of San Francisco if I had that on the damn front, if you know what I mean. Did you ever see the end of Rocky 2? All those little kids were following Rocky up through the art museum. That's what would happen to people like me if I drove that logo or a Volvo through San Francisco. I'm not joking. So, okay, I'm presenting it the wrong way. Forget the women becoming buyers. Men won't want to. I don't want to wear anything that has the symbol of a dick. Okay, there's no way it would have ever made it out of the boardroom. Everybody knows what the male symbol. It's. I mean, this is ridiculous, guys. How this came to be, even after a Mandela effect, I have no idea. But I do trust anybody that says the Volvo logo is an anchor effect for them. I absolutely believe them because there's no way this should have ever got out of the boardroom in 1925. All right, let's end with Australia's distance to Papua New Guinea. You can't get more insane, I guess, considering the stuff that I talk about. If you just jump into a pool, can you get more wet in another pool? You can't get more insane, so let's just do this, right? This is an anchor effect for many of us. This is ridiculous to me. Absolutely ridiculous, as if I just woke up or I woke up in 2016 in a cartoon. The last time I looked, the outermost island that's off that point that's owned by Australia was something like 90 miles from Papua New Guinea. You could take a dinghy, you could row a dinghy or a canoe with one paddle. You could make it if the current was right to Papua New Guinea or vice versa. Even now, that's the last time I looked. Dave, who's in Australia, our friend Dave, who's helped out with a lot of good images over the years, I think he's saying it's getting closer. It's like 70 miles or something. And guys, this is so funny. I've had people in Australia, I've mentioned this, how many times? 20 times over the last so many years, since 2016, since this was so shocking. And I went running, looking at the map and went, what the heck is this? I've had people come to me from Australia and say, Matt, it's always been like this. Oh my God, really? Oh, I had no that. Yeah, that's how the Mandela effect works. I know. I didn't think it just actually moved and there was a big trail through the continental plates or whatever. I know it. You wake up or you're in a new reality. I don't think it actually moved, left a wake behind it, like it had an outboard engine on it, and Australia moved up or so. I don't. I understand that. People from Australia, it's always been like that, Matt. Oh my God, help me. As is the case with most residual evidence associated with the Mandela effect, even for those that can't see it. And it's not a Mandela effect. And you always remember as a kid looking at maps when you were in first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and it was always just so close. Well, of course, that's what you remember. That's what reality always reflects. We'll do it one more time. It ripples back through time as a retrocausality, of course. So, what does that mean if some of us see it? But I don't think we're going to discuss that here. We'll discuss that some other time. But there are ways to actually prove it, even if you don't see it. One way with Australia to prove it, and again, the residuals slowly disappear over time. But I remember in 2016 investigating, okay, let's get a hold of these residuals before they disappear. What is the indigenous species of birds and mammals and things on Australia? And Australia always had there was a big feather in their cap. So many things that are just on Australia. Well, how's that the case if it's so close to Papua New Guinea? Why Papua New Guinea, their population is black or it's dark skinned. They don't look like the Aboriginals. I keep saying that, sorry. The Aborigines of Australia. You would have had an intermixing of populations, at least on the northern half of Australia, going back hundreds or thousands of years. You don't have that. Well, how did the population stay separate? Again, if some guy is in Papua New Guinea and the current's going the right way and some guy's asleep on the beach with his girlfriend, who knows how they live there, and he just rolls over onto a raft and the raft drifts down, it's going to bump into Australia, right? How's he going to miss it? He going to miss it? Then he would start interbreed. Look, the populations and of the animals, of the birds especially, couldn't have kept separate birds. But there's birds that are just on Australia and just on Papua New Guinea. That makes sense when those that remember Australia the way I do, literally 1,000 miles south for the most part. The land down under, not on the same latitude as Brazil. Now, I'm just picturing the map that I looked at, first grade, second grade, third grade, wandering off while the teacher was talking. Australia just down by itself. Papua New Guinea not even in the damn picture. And you wonder how that. And it goes along with the stories. You put prisoners on the damn island. Isn't that the story of Australia? Well, all the prisoners have to do, it ain't no Papillon. All they got to do is get up north and float up to Papua New Guinea to get the hell off. Isn't that the whole point? You put the prisoners there? Well, if it's 1,000 miles isolated, them damn sons of bitches, poor devils, ain't going anywhere. All they got to do now in this reality, prisoners, they all make their way. They had maps back then. Some of those prisoners were mariners. We just have to make our way up to the north, wait for the dam. I know it ain't that easy on Australia. I know it's there's desert, and I know. I know. Just go with me. It's 90 miles. You could almost swim it. This is an absolute joke. I could do a whole, not a whole video on the Australia to Papua New Guinea phenomenon, how strange it is to me. I could do a whole YouTube channel on it, repeating the same damn thing. It is the most fascinating thing in the world to me. I'll look for your comments. Thanks, guys.